Welcome to Safe Action. This is the Wise Defender podcast where we talk about guns, training, and all sorts of stuff that helps you become a wise defender. My name is Andrew, and I am joined here by Jake from Mantis. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, Andrew. Stoked to have this conversation, man.
Yeah, same. Been a long time coming. So please tell people a little bit about yourself and also about Mantis if they're not familiar.
Yeah. My name is Jake Hollenbeck. A little bit about me. I grew up in Southwest South Dakota, so a stone's throw away from Nebraska and Wyoming at the same time, way down in the corner, in the Black Hills. Grew up on a cattle ranch out there. Grew up shooting my whole life, and ended up joining the Army out of South Dakota, and did that for a couple of years, and then got out and got into software, and had been shooting the whole time. So it's pretty natural for me to fall in the fold with Mantis. And for those of you who don't know, Mantis, we are a small arms training company. So we provide sensors and inserts for your firearms and help give you valuable feedback on your fundamentals and help you grow as a shooter. And it's
Awesome.
all app driven. Yeah. So mobile, easy, clean, convenient. We can get into a lot of that later on, but that's me and that's Mantis.
Yes. Well, let's get into Dryfire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you're the perfect person to talk about this because of, your relationship with Mantis and then your experience in that field. So let's just kind of start simple. What makes good Dryfire? Or let's even just define it first for people who are maybe unfamiliar with it.
Yeah. So Dryfire is the concept of practicing fundamentals at home without shooting live ammunition. And it's all about repetition, right? So an easy way to think about it is, we always want to try and replicate shooting as much as we can. And to some extent it's impossible, right? Like there's not a physical force out there like black powder. So I always want to be really clear and state like Dryfire is added training to your current cycle. It is not designed to replace live fire. But the whole point of it is to isolate fundamentals and work on those and do it consistently. And you got to do it a lot, So that's kind of my definition of what it is and why it's important.
Yeah, no, that's great. Something that I would also add, and I want your take on this, is that what I see a lot of people do is when they're dry firing at home, they'll be like, oh, I know this is an unloaded gun. And so they get like, nice and loosey-goosey with it and just like, they're just like, oh, click, click, click. And then they get out to the range and they're like, okay, it's going to go boom. And they really hunker down. And so all of that, those 3 hours that they spent, shooting at their TV, dry fire, it's like, oh, there's the bad guy. Click. I'm like, I'm training. And, your wife just looks at you like, what are you doing? But then it doesn't really translate onto the range because now your grip tension is different. Your stance is different. All of that stuff influences the shot. So, would you agree that not just consistency in like form, but also consistency in dry fire, how you want to shoot?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of guys will complain that like, oh, I don't want to have this like poor muscle memory of, pulling the trigger and then racking the slide every single time. Training scars, right? You want to be concerned with training scars. And the reality is that means you're not shooting enough, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say this is designed to be added to your legitimate training cycle, right? The best shooters in the world dry fire 10 times more than they do live fire, but they live fire 3, 4, 5, 6 times a month. You know what I mean? They're getting out and shooting. And you're right. You know what it's like to go out and shoot because you train enough. But when you're dry firing at home to add to that cycle, there's not a lazy aspect to it. It is practice. You've got the best golfers in the world. They're standing in their living room swinging a club or looking at a specific grip angle or how they're going into their backswing or how they're lining their shoulders up. They're replicating what they're doing when they go out and actually play. And that's huge. That's huge in general, especially for Mantis, right? Like we'll get into how our tech works and why we think it's important. But the reality is we're trying to replicate fundamentals, and we can't be lazy with that. You know, if you're lazy with the fundamental, you're going to go out and shoot live ammunition and do something stupid like that. You're going to have a weak wrist. You're going to accidentally go try to re-rack it or something like that. So the reality is we're trying to work on the fundamentals of what we do when we shoot. You got to have the same grip. You got to have the same trigger pull. You know, your sight alignment, all those things matter. You can't just sit on the couch and rack it and click it and rack it and click it and be like, well, I dry fired, I'm not getting better. You know, you got to practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well put. I think a perfect then tangent off of that would be how often should someone dry fire to really get the benefit of it, to see results on the range?
So our science says you should do 15 to 20 minutes a night. You pick the fundamental you want to isolate. If you want to go full blown, hey, I did, 100, 150 reps from rack to punch out to reset, or from the holster, whatever it is, great. That's up to you to decide that. And that time frame means you're out shooting too, right? Like you need to be shooting at least twice a month, at the very minimum. And even if it's 50 rounds, like, you've got to be able to get those dry fire presses in. But you can do the math on how many shots or how many reps that is, right? But we suggest 15 to 20 minutes every single day.
Okay. Awesome. That's, I think, probably to some people actually going to be less of an ask than they were probably expecting. They're probably thinking like, I got to do hours, I got to like really just put the time in. And it's like, no, you can do it pretty quickly, first thing in the morning or right before you go to bed, or,
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, every class that you go to, for any of you that have been out to a class, or you might understand what I'm talking about, but that's 9 times out of 10 what an instructor is going to do before you go out and start shooting, before you, whatever. You'll finish up your classroom brief, and then as soon as you get out there, it's like, hey, we're all cleared, safe, unloaded. Let's go ahead and pull from the holster a couple times. Let's get that sight acquisition going. Let's get a couple clicks in. It warms you up, gets the blood moving, keeps your brain back to where, hey, it's shooting time, it's shooting mode, and get you level and ready to go. So it's a tried and true practice from top to bottom. No matter the discipline, no matter what it is you do, you're going to do dry runs 90% of the time before you go out and do it live anyway. So yeah, it's not a big ask. That's a tiny portion of those classes. It's 10, 15 minutes to get everyone on board and ready to go. And that's really all it needs to be. And that's all we're asking people to do. Just spend 10 to 20 minutes a night, a morning when you wake up and you got the quiet time for the kids get running around. Go pull the reps in, and you're going to feel a lot better next time you go to the range.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you bring up incorporating dry fire into live fire classes. And that's one thing that I found very helpful as well. Been teaching a lot of church security lately, and like that's the first thing we'll do is like, hey, everybody, we're going to triple check the guns are clear. We're going to do some dry fire reps, and then walk people through how to do it, and then say, okay, now kind of on your own pace, just get several reps. And then that gives, as an instructor, the opportunity to look at everybody and be like, okay, who needs extra help when it comes to, the fundamentals of safety and some of the basics. So before even live rounds are flying, you get the opportunity to assess, and, and then plus people are like, okay, I'm doing this, I've done this before. So now when they do it live, they don't have the kind of nervousness that people tend to start off with in classes like that.
Well, pace is important, right? Especially when you're doing something as dangerous as shooting a firearm. This isn't a joke, and I've been shooting my whole life. I'm entirely comfortable from top to bottom, no matter what the goal of the day is. But just like you said, sometimes a student isn't ready for that pace, or they're a little bit nervous about what's going to be happening for the day. Dry fire not only gives you as an instructor an opportunity to see, okay, well, I saw him speed jam his gun back into the holster 5 times, so now I know. But that also gives the student an opportunity to go like, hey, I noticed that every time I finish a rep, like, I have an automatic thing to just throw my gun away really fast.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity for you to really just start instructing right there too. So it's really kind of the perfect tool for everything related to what we're going to be doing for real.
Yeah. And I do want to kind of segue back to, you know, we were talking about kind of taking it seriously and giving it, you know, you don't have to give it a lot of time, but the short amount of time you give it, you know, giving it your attention. And I made a joke earlier about, you know, shooting at your TV, shooting at the bad guys on the TV. And I know that that's a genuine trick that people use to get themselves to dry fire, because it can be kind of tedious sometimes. But man, I would advocate, I'm curious your thoughts on it. I would advocate not doing that, because if your attention is divided between, you know, watching John Wayne and your dry fire, then you're not really focusing on the isolated fundamentals that you should be focusing on at that time, right? You're distracted, and you want to be fully aware, like, okay, was that a crappy trigger pull? You know, all that stuff. My question is, when it comes to dry fire tools, what are some of the tools that are out there? Because, I mean, obviously you can just rack the slide back and pull a trigger on an empty chamber, but I think we live in an awesome age where there's a lot of tools that can help us do dry fire better.
So, great question. Obviously, I'm a little biased when it comes to these tools, but this really breaks down into what are you training for, right? Where's your skill level at? What are you trying to do? What skill set are you trying to accomplish? Because dry fire is about isolating fundamentals and working on them, you can apply that, like I said, you know, from if you're military or law enforcement, you need to practice running through a building, then we've got tools for that. If you're a brand new shooter where you really just want to learn, like, what does good grip look like? Why do I keep shooting low and left? Do I need to buy a new Glock? Like, you can figure all that out. So I would suggest what 90% of our customers start with, and that's we call it the shooting performance sensor, specifically the X10. I've got one here. Let's see if I can get my camera to cooperate. So this is my X10 right here. It looks a little bit different than what you'll see on the shelf. I had this one stippled to match my echelon because I was a nerd, but this is without a doubt the most feedback I've ever gotten from a dry fire tool ever. All this does is clips to your firearm or the base of a magazine. It starts blinking, and that tells you it's in pairing mode. And you pair this to our free application. What this does is it tracks all motion associated with the firearm, and it looks for specific vibration thresholds. So this thing is smart enough to know when I'm racking it versus slapping a new mag in versus putting it in the holster versus punching out and taking a shot. It knows the difference between all those functions. And then before, during, and after every single trigger pull, it'll give me about a third of a second in time across that whole kind of breakdown. And it tells me exactly what my muzzle did within that time frame. So, without a bunch of like hoopla and jargon, what that means is that it's telling me exactly where the muzzle was while I was pressing the trigger and where the muzzle was when I finish pulling the trigger and the gun goes bang or the trigger goes click. Because it can see that, it can tell you exactly what's going on with your fundamentals. So if I'm during my trigger press and I'm pulling a little bit right when I take that shot and it finishes right, the sensor is going to tell me, hey, you might be using too much trigger finger. You might be thumbing a little bit. Maybe we look into what you're doing with your grip. It'll constantly give me feedback as to why my shot finished that direction. So you can see why that's applicable across any facet of shooting. And it does it for everything. So you can put it on a pistol and work on that. You can put it on a rifle and it, it'll give you rifle specific feedback. We've got an app for sporting shotgun. So like your swing through and your lead. And it also works on archery. So it does not matter what you shoot. It's going to be able to see what's going on and give you feedback on it. So when it comes to tools, that's my number one. The X10 is a game changer for any level of shooter. There are a couple others that you might be familiar with. Matter of fact, I see the charging handle of one of them right there on your screen.
Yep.
The Blackbeard is my favorite tool, not my most impactful, but that's because, I do a little bit more pistol shooting than I do rifle shooting. But as a guy who was in the Army for a while and has worked with a carbine in his hands, I can tell you that thing right there is a game changer. And the industry thought so too when that was released. A reset system for your actual rifle makes Dryfire training with your rifle an insanely different aspect. Specifically because of how the technology works. You get your true weight break and reset of whatever trigger group's in there. You get a nice little laser down the bore so you can visualize a point of impact. And a lot of those models now have the same sensor I was just talking about built into the mag. Mm-hmm. So you can go do dynamics with it, which is, how flat was my transition? Did I over travel? Did I delay on target before I took the shot? You can heat map it to see, like, on my transition, was I really slow, or where did I accelerate? Where did I deaccelerate? So that it just starts pushing you to, like, get off, get on, don't over travel, hit the button when you're there. So that thing is pushing skill sets to a whole new level.
Yeah. What I love about all that is it's taking what the shooter would have to acquire over a lot of reps to be able to notice that stuff in yourself physically. Like, I'm sure you felt that way. You're taking a shot, and before the trigger even fully breaks, like, you're like, oh man, and then the gun goes off, and you're like, you felt it, right? You felt it as the shot was going off. You're like, oh gosh darn it, that's a miss. And then you look at the target, you're like, yep, I knew it. Like, you can feel it, right? But a lot of shooters, it takes a while to get to that point where you can start to feel that. And then you kind of have to start over when you're like, oh, well, now I'm working on, getting into a shooting position as I come to a stop while moving. Like, some of those nuanced stuff. We're like, okay, well, now I need to build more self-awareness around that kind of stuff. I love that this type of tech, you don't have to have that physical self-awareness to start learning from that data. It can just tell you right now.
Yeah. It takes all the guesswork out, right? It just kind of like you were saying, like, even calling your own shots, it takes thousands of rounds to get to the point where in the shot string exactly what shot did what. That's a lot of practice. That's a very skilled shooter that has that ability. This does that for you, and not. It certainly doesn't make you lazy, right? It just speeds that process up. You get to that point a lot faster. You can start identifying those muscle memories that you feel after, your thousands of rounds and you've known it for a while now. It can take you from, like, hey, I've shot my AR for 100 rounds to 1,000 rounds. You can do that process a lot faster, start calling your own shots, and understand your own tendencies at a significant rate, So yeah, it's a massive tool to be able to help you speed up your fundamental set as a shooter.
Yeah. I mean, we got the X10 right here as well, and I'll say that you probably think like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty good. I pulled the trigger. I didn't really see the iron sights move, and then you slap the the sensor on there, and you're like, oh, that was a score of like 70, and you're like, ugh, okay. Some of that stuff is easier to see with the dot, right? Because there's just such a fine point of contrast. You can kind of see if there's a little bit of shake, but with irons, it can be a little bit harder, especially if you're target focusing. So a tool like this can come in real handy for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot more, kind of like you were saying, like with a laser sight or with a dot, you can forgive yourself a little bit for having a little bit of that. Like, oh, I was breathing, I knew it moved, whatever. This sensor is 400 points of data a second. Like, this thing can see the world turn, basically, so there's no lying, right? It's a fat slice of humble pie. I fancied myself a decent shot before I started working here. And we have an employment requirement that within your first 90 days of being with the company, you have to be shooting in the 90s or higher. So it was like one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, I've been shooting for a while, guys. Send me a sensor, let's get this thing going. And I was consistently in the mid 70s, and I was like, dang, dude, dang, I had no idea. But yeah, it pushed me. It pushed me fast though, which again is a testament to why it's important. But yeah, it sees all for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's cool that Mantis as a company has not just like a knowledge standard for their team members, but also like a proficiency standard. That's pretty cool.
You have to perform and when we're out at shows and stuff, like I do all of our trade shows, so I'm showing to the military, to the general public, to law enforcement. When we get out there in front of these guys, it's like, would you listen to a guy that like couldn't shoot but was like, this thing made me way better? Like, no, you're not gonna buy anything from him. So we have to perform that way. So I agree. I think it's fantastic that they have those requirements set and that we all practice to that level.
Cool. I do wanna come back to the Blackbeard a little bit. So how many different models do they make the Blackbeard for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, there's 2 different versions of the Blackbeard. Mm-hmm. The Blackbeard, the OG, that is a trigger reset system with or without a laser, currently available for AR-15 and MCX technically.
Okay. Would the MCX model, would that fit in a Spear LT?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. But okay, so I don't know if the MCX specific one does, but we have a Spear LT version. But that brings me around to Blackbeard X, which is the version that has the sensor built into it. The difference is in the magazine, right? So if you have a bulk carrier group that's designed for something else, but you have the 30-round magazine with the sensor in, it'll work. Mm-hmm. But as an example of that, we've got AR-15, AR-10, MCX, Scar Light, Scar Heavy, and we're just a couple of months away from, like, we've got some PCC stuff coming out, AK, a whole list of AK models, 47, 74.
Really?
The Bryn, we'll have a Bryn model out. G36 is getting one. So
I was gonna ask. I was gonna make a joke about that, but okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we've got a laundry list, and then in a similar vein, this guy right here, this is Titan X, and this is launching November 12th.
Okay,
we've kind of been throwing this around a little bit. This is the only thing that we produce that is a surrogate. Everything else is designed to work with your firearm. The reason we wanted to tackle a laser pistol market was really for 2 reasons. They're always going to be prevalent, right? So if you're ever going to do like you need an inert pistol, there's a lot of environments that require that where you can't take a firearm. This can go there. And then number 2, these are fantastic for training, education, getting it into someone's hands that isn't ready for a real firearm. Martial arts based things, so like if you've ever seen gun jitsu or anything like that, oftentimes there will be a laser pistol there. We've made this really cheap. Most of these competitors, most of these pistols are like $350 to $550, kind of depending on what you're going to do. This one's coming in at $200, so it'll be $199.
Oh, wow.
And it's packed. It's packed with features. Optic ready for RMR, RMSC. It takes factory mags, so it comes with 2 weighted training mags. The really cool, there's 2 really cool things about it. One is our sensors built into the slide, right? So you can, just like every other thing that we make, the sensor's at the heart of it. So we've got one with the sensor built in. And then number 2 is, you might know what pistol this looks like. That trigger feels the exact same. So most of these, you kind of get like a really kind of cheap, just little switch with a button so that you can get a laser. This is an actual trigger. So it behaves like it. It breaks and resets like it. And for $200, we think this is going to be super competitive and really exciting for a lot of people out there. So awesome. These will be coming out in November. Another fantastic tool. But the only one that will make that... this is the only thing that we'll make that is a surrogate. instead of designed to work on your firearm or in your firearm.
Dude, I am so excited for the Titan because that is even, like we've used airsoft guns for either force and force stuff or for, IR simulators. You got the projector on the wall and you need something that has a little bit of recoil or whatnot, or even if it's not recoil, it's still the slides moving, gives
Sight disturbance.
Realism.
Yep.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And, different tools like that, but it's like, it's just, the trigger's wrong, it's just not quite right. And even with Dryfire mags, like that's it, Dryfire mags are decent,
yeah,
and they're good, right? But you can definitely tell like that's not the trigger. It's different. So I'm very excited for something that has like a 1-to-1 trigger feel of that platform.
I will say, so we've been talking about it for quite a while, and we've had some prototypes out for SHOT Show for the last couple of years. Let me see, and I don't know how much juice this will give us on video, but our number one request for years has been like, hey, I love the Blackbeard. When am I going to get that in my pistol, right?
Sure.
That is our largest project to date and is what we've been doing.
Ooh.
Yeah, for a couple of years, and I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek here.
Oh yeah.
Let me see if I can.
Juicy deets.
Yeah, they're awesome. So let me see if I can actually get this to focus. So there's me with one in an actual Glock there, and there you can kind of see it. Actually, there's my boss in the back. He's such a goofball, but yeah, it's legit, and it's really, really, really close.
Wow.
If you notice, the mag and the barrel were our iconic molded red. So that gives you an idea of just how close we are. But we are stoked for that. We think that's going to be another big windfall and a big game changer for Dryfire and training.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I've been chasing for the last 4 to 5 years is, I mean, there are some companies out there that do a great job at, trying to simulate recoil and trigger resets. And there's, CO2 systems and electronic systems and mechanical systems and all kind of stuff out there. But to have something that's a true, drop in, I'm really excited for that.
Yeah,
I've actually reached out to some companies and be like, hey, you guys should try to work on something like this because I want it so bad. So I'm stoked to hear that that's actually a reality.
Yeah, we like to say that the age old saying of a rising tide raises all ships, right? And we are massive fans of Dryfire training at all. One of my favorite things about being in this industry is specifically how, compared to most other industries out there, there is a lot of healthy competition, truly healthy, right? Like, we wouldn't have good Glocks if we didn't have good SIGs. We wouldn't have really competitive shotguns if it wasn't for turkey, right? So there's all these things where it's truly healthy. Innovation is driving innovation. And when it comes to Dryfire, this conversation has been silent until 5 years ago, Yeah. And sure, we've always known it's been there. It's always been a part of it, right? The gladiators practice with wooden swords. It's always been a part of our combat thought process. In the Army and the Marine Corps, there's always a Dryfire week before you go to the range. So it's always been there, but we've never, on the consumer side of things, the industry as a whole, it's always just been but I mean, it's not that important, right? And we're finally coming around to the idea of the best people in the world are the best because they do this all the time. So we're really starting to have that conversation. And when we come to other companies in the industry that do the Dryfire mag, Coolfire Trainer, T-Trigger, Ace, I think they're awesome systems. And we don't throw shade out there. It's, Dryfire mag, does it have its quirks? Yeah, but you're using your pistol, and that's huge. And your Dryfire training, and that's huge,
Same with Coolfire, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Strikeman, another one, right? Like we go to head with the whole laser targets and the laser academy. The reality is like, thank you, Strikeman, for having a loyal fan base, because that means Dryfire's that much more important to the industry. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Normalize it, baby.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're thrilled that there are successful companies in the Dryfire space outside of ours.
Cool. I like that. That's humble.
Yeah,
Which, honestly, I think speaks to the company culture too. Because it's one thing if it's like, dude, all of our competition, that's them. They're the enemy. But I'm with you that I think if we are truly pro 2A, that means we kind of have to work with each other. I see a lot of gun companies suing gun companies right now, and I'm not saying that there's never a place for that if there's like genuine infringement on stuff, but at some degree it's like, dude, like what's good for the industry is good for everybody.
for everyone.
It's good for 2A. So let's let just 2A win, even if it means like, so what, there's some competition out there.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you're truly good at what you do, like, it doesn't really matter that there's competition, because
You wouldn't be good at what you did if you didn't have somebody else driving after you. You know what I mean?
That's also true.
Like,
that's also true.
You got to have some fire there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I 100% agree. It's good for all of us. And I think this industry specifically is like, I don't care where you're at in the industry, we're all kind of under the gun, so to speak, right? Like the world's kind of against us there.
Yeah.
At least when it kind of comes to nation states and things like that. Like, everyone's got a military, so guns are always going to be prevalent. But 2A, specifically our country, it's in our DNA, and if we want to keep that, we need to stick together and keep the education and everything else moving forward.
Yeah, very true. Well, I'm gonna pivot us a little bit here.
Yeah.
And talk about, when it comes to what we practice in Dryfire, what are some of the fundamentals or skills that you think are most important to practice? So to put it another way, so we have that 15-minute or 20-minute chunk of time in the evening. What are the things we should be focusing on during that time?
I like to kind of break my practice down into, specific segments, right? So sometimes Dryfire practice, there's not but one trigger squeeze every time, and maybe I'll spend 15 to 20 minutes a night just working on my reloads. Maybe the next night I spend 15 to 20 minutes coming out of the holster, strong side or concealed, right? Those two separate nights right there. Some nights I simply, for 100 squeezes, just do muscle memory on grip, trigger press, side alignment, and do that 100 times. So really, because you're not shooting actual ammunition, and because sometimes repeatability is limited, a majority of the time my practice is a specific segment. Now, that's not always the case, right? Like, I've been doing that for like 5 or 6 years now. Sometimes I want to be more involved. So sometimes I'll get my Blackbeard out, and I'll go stand on the front porch and have my wife go through the house and hide 3 targets somewhere else throughout the house and like clear my house. And I'll do that 10, 15 times, or until she gets exhausted by me and I have to figure out a different way to do it. But yeah, you should be changing it up. That keeps practice fresh, which helps a lot. But also, you want to work on all your skill sets. You want to work on everything related to what you're training for, right? Like, I'm not an Olympic cross-country skier who shoots the 22s, or I can't remember what that's called. You might know what that's called, but so they probably don't need to clear a house, right? They probably actually just stand still and then isosceles and shoot 200 times a day. That's probably what they do. So it depends on what you're training for. I'm defense minded, and so that's what I practice for. But it depends on what you do, but you should be breaking all of it down into individual skill sets and fundamentals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've found myself focusing a lot on holster draws, a lot on even just the even further isolation of that. So sight presentation, trigger press, even just the draw without shoot, and just kind of breaking some of that apart and then doing it all at the same time. One thing that, and this will actually lead in well to what I want to talk about next, but one thing that I've been doing to kind of help break up some of the monotony is right off the bat, even if I'm like, okay, I want to work on isolated stuff today, I'll set up a stage. Because let's face it, sometimes Dryfire is like, okay, I got to do this same thing over and over again. Like, it can be a little tedious sometimes. So to help motivate myself to do it, I'll put targets all over, and I'll either grab a cone or a throw pillow and be like, okay, this is stand here, then move here, then move here, and I'll run around the house and click, 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 move, 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 click, 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 move, 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 click, click, and I'll do that a few times, and usually the first time is like very humbling because you're like, okay, over traveled here, terrible presentation here, the holster draw was a disaster, and right off the bat you're like, that holster draw is bad, and so okay, now I'm motivated to isolate that.
Yep.
And I get some reps in. Okay, now let's run the stage again, and you do it again. Like, okay, cool. Now let's work on transitions and stuff like that. So sometimes for me, and maybe this is a helpful trick for other people as well, is start by doing something dynamic, and you're like, well, I don't feel like I'm quite ready for that. And it's like, exactly, but that'll kind of help expose
why, right? Yeah,
yeah, expose some of the areas that you need to isolate and focus on. But
yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic way to look at it. And that you're right. You just have to go do something, right? Like, here's a staggering number for you. 80, it's estimated from the FBI, 85% of gun owners in this country have zero formal training. Zero. So it's like your odds, like if you break down and just go, I ran around the house for 20 minutes trying to like practice something and I feel silly, it's like you're in the top 10% already just by like trying to run around your house and like consider doing something, right? So yeah. I hope that's motivating to some people out there, is the people that do this are an elite, and it takes zero effort. This is like one of the few things that takes zero effort to become elite, right? It's just like doing it at all gives you a massive advantage over somebody else. And then once you start doing it, you'll start finding like-minded people in that community that are like, oh, you train? Like, that's one of my favorite things out in the wild. If I catch someone, they're like, oh, me and the boys are putting carriers on. We're going to go shoot at the creek next week. And it's like, oh, you train? Sick, dude. Because, like, you don't see that a lot, right?
No.
But I digress. You know, the whole point, get motivated, is it's not like we're asking you to become, like, I'm not asking you to try out for, you know, like the Kansas City Royals next year because you've never played baseball before. Like, I just want you to try, right? And if you try, you're already doing better than most. So absolutely worth even just running around your house for 20 minutes and learning, like, hey, I kind of suck shooting around corners, or like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my holster draw, or I didn't see my dot a single time. And it's like, great, you've got 4 things that you can go work on. That's a whole week of training right there. There you go. Good job, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and even just speaking to that statistic, where how many of those people only own a gun just because they want to plank versus how many people own a gun to protect themselves and carry it regularly. Like, that's a whole nother aspect to it. But what I'm getting at is how many people are carrying a gun in public around other people and yet don't even have a training standard for themselves to be successful, to hit what they're aiming at, let alone not hit other people. So I guess, you know, if I were to preach for a moment, this is just like a call to, you know, the people around you are begging you to have the basic capability to hit what you're aiming at. Because I mean, like, hey, I've had the conversation with people that I'm like, hey, dude, I honestly don't want you carrying around me, because, you know, the types of things that you're like, oh, you know, I want a safety on the gun because, you know, I can't. The thought of the gun not having a manual safety on it scares me. And I'm like, dude, if you need a safety to keep you safe, that's a training problem,
Yeah.
and I don't want you carrying anywhere near me, because at some point that safety has to come off, and then at that point there's nothing standing in between you and a negligent discharge. So, you know, yeah, I'll get off the soapbox in just a moment, but I'm just like, yeah, I see it as an absolute necessity for you to be a responsible gun owner, to put in the time and put in the training. And yeah, dude, for me personally, and I would argue for anybody, Dryfire has been one of the top tools to build firearm or weapon familiarity in a controlled environment where I'm like, okay, now I can go out to the range and do spicy stuff because I've done it in a controlled environment where I'm not accidentally going to put a hole in something I don't want to.
Right, right. And it doesn't even have to be that, like, that spicy, right? Like, if I know, like, leading up to a concealed carry class where somebody just got their pistol a month ago and they want education, which props, that's fantastic. You should be doing that. But they've spent that month doing just that. Like, I don't need to stare at my pistol and use my offhand to hit the eject button to drop a mag because I practiced. I spent this last month with my new gun feeling it, like knowing where everything is and having the muscle memory and understanding it and like having that intimate, safe time with your firearm to become familiar so that even when we go to the range to do something basic, like learn target acquisition or like learn how to get a good group, things like that. Even having zero firearm experience, just being able to get manipulation down is a massive bonus over most of the people that are actually carrying firearms today in public. So I'm 100% with you. I stand right on that soapbox with you on that deal because awesome. I agree. I think there's a ton of gun owners out there that don't even do that.
Yeah. Well, and related to that, my next question would be, what are some barriers to dry fire? Like, why don't we do it? Some of these we've listed already, like tediousness, right? Or lack of time, but
so you have to make time, right? You can. That's one of the easy excuses in the world is like, I'm so busy. I'm exhausted after we got the kids all bathed into bed. And at the end of the day, I want to sit on the couch and rot. Like, I understand all of that, right? I get it. I really think that ignorance is probably the largest problem with dry fire is, I grew up in a rural setting. I grew up with men. I learned how to shoot guns from men who can drill an animal at full speed from 300 yards away with one shot. And that didn't require traditionally them having to go out and dry fire all the time, right? Like I grew up shooting groundhogs and prairie dogs and I don't need to do all that dry fire stuff. And I like to be a testament to those people, right? Like, I live in Kansas. Like, this is a rural community where you can go shoot off your back porch for most of the gun owners out here. And oftentimes when I bring up dry fire, I'm kind of like the nerd in the room where they're like, why would I waste my time doing that? It's like, because Billy, I thought the same thing growing up. I grew up out in rural South Dakota where I shot deer, I shot groundhogs, I shot turkey, I did all of it. But I still learned so much about where my skill sets were lacking. And I wanted to be proficient and a smart and responsible gun owner and give the rest of the world a good face for gun ownership and how that works. So my constant advocacy out here is just fighting ignorance most of the time, is breaking stereotypes and saying, like, I'm some 30-year-old something that could probably outshoot most 20 to 60-year-olds out here. And it's because I put in the time and I practiced. And most of the time, humbling someone like that, at least out here, is usually the issue, right? That changes going into urban areas, going to Kansas City or Wichita or Oklahoma City, stuff like that, Topeka, our state's capital. All of those cities I just listed, heavy on crime. There's a lot of crime. And most of the time, gun ownership inside those city limits is not because I want to kill a turkey or I want to put deer meat in the freezer. It's because most of the time people are fearing for their life. and getting them to understand dry fire practice is not an ignorance issue. It is most of the time it's kind of ignorance, but they just didn't even realize like that was an avenue to be a better shooter, right? Like a lot of the times just didn't understand that that's a thing and that it's important to begin with. So
yeah, shooting guns is something you do on the gun range. Like you just you're like, oh wait, you can actually get better for free at home.
Yeah. It stays in the safe between gun range trips, you know. So I'd say most of the time those are kind of the barriers I see when it comes to dry fire training.
Okay, awesome. I have a list of things that I think are helpful for people to actually get them to dry fire, and I want to get your reaction to this. And let's see if some of these you've already talked about, but I want to see if you have anything that you'd change or add. So, to get people to dry fire, I would suggest scheduling it. You kind of already talked about that, set aside time in the evenings or the mornings or whenever it makes sense for you. Finding motivation, like saying like, okay, well, I'm motivated by wanting my family to be protected, and I recognize to be a good protector, I got to develop skill set. Or whatever your motivation is. I want to win that competition, and I can't do that if everybody's better than me.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And then another thing would be making it easy, right? So is it convenient to dry fire? If it's a chore, if it's a hassle, if I can have to completely disassemble my gun to insert my training aid and reassemble it and, all that stuff, it's going to be a deterrent. Have some kind of plan, some kind of training plan. You're not just aimlessly dry firing, but there's specific things that you're working on. And then my last thing would be have other people keep you accountable. So like buddies will send each other dry firing videos and be like, oh dude, nice. And, be like, yo man, where's your dry fire video? I haven't seen one from you in a while, some of that kind of community stuff. So I'm curious, is there anything you'd add or elaborate on?
So what you just explained is a healthy person. That same person that's willing to do that is also the same person that knows like, hey, I need to drink more water. I know what I'm going to do when I go to the gym. It's Tuesday, it's abs day, it's Thursday, it's leg day, it's the exact same schedule. And you're making essentially, as far as organization is concerned, the same commitment and oftentimes with far less like overhead. It's not nearly as much time out of your day. It's not nearly as much, and in some cases you can do them together. I know a ton of guys that want to do 37 burpees and then do dry fire presses with their X10 and figure out like when their heart rate's elevated, where are they missing? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, no, I think that's a perfect way to summarize that. And really is a fantastic way to lean into education of why it's so important and how easy it is to do. But yeah, I think that's 100% the exact same argument most gym coaches get from people is like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to schedule the time. I hate having to take a shower before I go to work. Like whatever it is, right? Like it's the same argument. But yeah, you just hit that nail right on top of the head. That's exactly, exactly what we see. Yeah.
So I know Mantis is a tech-based company for the most part, right? You guys do a lot with electricity and ones and zeros, but let's just say that someone's like, dude, I get some money at Christmas, but right now, like, I got a pistol and that's it. All the tech is fun, but what are some of the bare basics that someone can do to actually start building skill with nothing but their gun?
Yeah, so what I like to say, if you're not able to invest in your training, but you have the basics to get started training, YouTube University is probably, and I want to be careful here, right? Because like the internet is the internet, right? Like you got to be careful out there. But there are tons of reputable sources to go and look for ways to train without needing additional investments, right? Like if you know you're not going to be able to get something for a couple months or a year or whatever it is that your schedule or budget, requires of you, 100%. I would work on definitely sight acquisition and sight acquisition out of the holster for sure. That I would start with like proper sight alignment. Go YouTube that one, because there's a billion dudes out on YouTube, or instructors even oftentimes post free content. So go look up a notable instructor and you'll find some good instructional. But a lot of the times there's all sorts of free content out there that is very good foundation, and that doesn't require any investment, just other than your time and your willingness, right? So, but yeah, I'd say like actual really important like blocks would be definitely sight picture, sight alignment, working on a good grip, like building up a good grip, holster draw are like, that's what I would call the absolute bare minimum. Work on these things. And then if you can start investing more time, then work on shooting and moving, work on shooting around corners, work on transitioning between targets, work on transitioning between firearms. Like, I don't know what you're training for, but you can really start stepping it up from there for most shooting mediums out there. But yeah, I think that's probably what I would lean into the most, is kind of like the core four there.
Okay, right on. And then, in kind of response to people who are like, dude, just rack the slide, pull the trigger. Like that's dry fire. You don't need any of the gadgets. Like, just, it's not necessary. What would be your answer to that? Like, what's the benefit of having all the cool tech?
Yeah, so if you want your proficiencies to grab hold and grow quickly, technology is a force multiplier, right? Specifically ours. If you're the kind of person that is like, hey, I don't feel like I need a ton of instructional feedback, and I'm not super concerned about very technical changes, but I feel pretty proficient and I want to go get like a laser target or a laser trainer. That's oftentimes the cheapest way to get into some type of dry fire technology. The laser squibs you can find on Amazon from $20 to $40, and you get a whole bunch of re-racks and get a dot out of that every time you shoot. Great. You can invest in systems like Laser Academy, where you'll get split times, you'll get point of impact data, you'll get scored on the targets you want to shoot, and that's a good way to practice shooting at a target. But I would say looking into a good reset system, and our shooting performance sensor, like, I don't want to just sit here and say that like we're the greatest, but there's nothing else like it on the market. Nothing else exists like that. And it's proven to shape skill sets faster than anything out there. And it costs, in most cases, half what one class you might ever take would cost. So you get a ton of return out of that investment, but we encourage all of that. So if you got the budget and you need to start small, get some laser targets. It makes training a little bit more interactive at home. You get a little bit of visual feedback out of it. That's nice. One step up from that, get an X10. You're going to learn a ton about yourself, your fundamentals, and you learn quickly. And then beyond that, reset systems, classes, do as much as you can if you've got the budget for it. But yeah, technology is a force multiplier. There's a reason it makes things easier and better. And, it's like, I could send you a written letter for the next time we want to do a podcast, but I'll probably email you tonight instead, because it's a lot faster and easier.
I mean, would you be willing to do both?
Yeah,
sure. I like the effort.
It's more authentic that way.
Yeah, especially if you know cursive. Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I've had it's like when I there's some tech that I've brought into a variety of classes, and it's like, it's cool and it works, and sometimes it fails, usually because I don't charge the battery, or because, I don't know, something just doesn't work how you expect it to, or, if it's like a projection based system, you have light coming in through a window and you're like, this screws up everything. And it is nice being like, okay, at the bare minimum, we in a classroom setting we can go to, you know, dropping hammers or strikers on an empty chamber and still get a lot out of that. And you're it's like, yeah, you're right. You don't need the tech. At the same time, you know, like you said, if there's a system out there that can grow you faster, like why wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah.
And that's even something I, you know, like I was running around with the Blackbeard. Actually, like last week, set up targets all over my house and was doing like stage stuff with that. The funny thing is I can do that same thing, just like flick it on fire and just press a dead trigger and that thing flops around and you can still get something kind of comparable, right? It's a good dry fire experience, but you put in the Blackbeard and you're actually seeing like your height over bore impacts on, you know, on a variety of targets and different distances in your house. I'm like, dude, you're not getting that without tech that shoots a laser out down your barrel.
Yep.
So, and then obviously that same tech needs to reset the trigger, ideally if you're doing something with multiple targets and doing doubles and all that jazz. So yeah, there are limit. I mean, you can do a lot without the tech, but having the tech, there are some things where I'm like, dude, you can't do that without some kind of trigger reset system or some kind of laser system or some kind of scoring system. So I've gravitated over the year. I got the like laser ammo. I got a cool fire. I got a Dryfire mag. I got Mantis systems. Like I'm just like, ooh, you know. And it's not because I necessarily need it all, but you know, I do swap between different systems, and they do have their strengths. And that's why I'm excited to kind of hear about some of the stuff that you guys have coming out too, because if some of that becomes more all-in-one, you know, one of the things on our list was make dry fire convenient and easy. So that kind of jazzes me up. But
yeah, man, it's definitely one of those deals. It's completely just changed the way that training's even thought of. You know, in the Army, what we used to do was washer and dime drills. So we'd go lay out in the grass with our M4s and M16s, and like you'd have to balance a washer or a dime on the front sight post and then be able to pull the trigger and reset it, like, you know, without the dime falling over. And it was like, you want to talk about like, dude, that sucked bad, right? Like that was boring. You didn't get anything out of it other than like, all right, well, I know where to trap the trigger and get a reset, and like, cool, I can rack an M16 without a dime falling off of it, like neat, but you know, like it wasn't like pushing me, right? Yeah. And now with the Marine Corps, every new boot recruit uses Blackbeard for their dry fire week. And
really?
It's like, yeah. And oops, sorry. And that was one of those things I was like, that was like the first major change to their training regimen, and like it was like 47 years or something. But it shortened their they call it grass week by 2 days, right? So like instead of a 5-day cycle, they're on a 3-day cycle doing that. And then every Marine that's doing that is qualifying first time. So like every Marine that used Blackbeard goes zeros and qualifies first time through. So it's, you know, you want to talk about like a radical change in the way like the thought process works and like why technology is like truly changing the world. That's one of them, right? So,
dude, that's hard data.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's nuts. It's super impressive, and it's really cool. I get like goosebumps. I've said that probably like, I don't know, like 92 times this year, and I still get jacked up about it. I think it's awesome.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Can I ask you an unfair question?
Totally.
What's your favorite Mantis product? Like, you got to choose one. You can't say they're all great.
Yeah. If I was put down the road today and told like I could only keep one, I would definitely, that would be my Blackbeard for sure.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
I love that thing, man. Like I use it a lot. And that's no shade at Laser Academy or Titan or, you know, the X10, because like I'm a significantly better shooter like because of those things. But yeah, I love my Blackbeard. Like I use it all the time. So that would be like my one if I had to leave it all behind and just take one with me.
Cool. Sorry, I just wanted to put you on the spot for a minute. For what it's worth, I feel the same way. I love the Blackbeard.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a riot.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so you've kind of given us some of the juicy deets already, but are there any other new products coming out that you're allowed to talk about?
Oh yeah,
or any that you're not allowed to talk about?
No, so
I'm kidding.
For the longest time, we had like a little embargo on Blackbeard for pistol, right? Like everybody asked, and we were always kind of like, oh, something's coming, like, oh, we're gonna do it. And then last year at SHOT Show, we had like the first like 3D printed, it was like the white filament 3D printed Blackbeard for pistol out, and everyone's like, when, you know? So we don't have release dates, but I can tell you it is like soon. We're really excited to get that one out the door, and it is like at the finish line. So
Sweet.
That's what I'm most excited about. That being said, we have a ton of cool stuff right behind it.
Okay.
We have a mobile driven projection system, so it'll be like similar to smokeless range, but it runs off of an app on your phone that you can plug into a projector, and that comes with like a bunch of, you know, it's like Laser Academy-esque training style. So you set your phone up, it detects QR codes on the projector on what's being output, and your phone's outputting it, and then the camera is also recognizing where laser strikes are landing. So it's like a really mobile, and that's going to be cheap. Again, that's going to be affordable. That's going to be an everyday consumer can like purchase and do that.
Awesome. When was that announced?
Yeah, so again, that one's kind of been sort of close to the finish line. We were really waiting on Titan to release because we wanted to be able to pair Titan with those kids.
Sure.
So we don't have like an
sense.
official launch day for that one, but you'll see that like our first, you know, November 12th is the hard line for Titan. I'd give it like maybe 30 to 60 days after Titan, you'll start seeing stuff that system I'm talking about is called Raven. So you'll start seeing that. Blackbeard for pistol, and then we have some augmented reality and virtual reality stuff that is mind-blowing. I've been demoing augmented reality to the military now for like 10 months, so that technically is available. That system's called Ares, and it's on Magic Leap 2. The headset is Magic Leap 2. And the main reason for that was like the pass-through is insane, right? Like, so it's not a completely enclosed system where there's a bunch of cameras on the front. It's like actually pass-through lenses that project digital entities into a physical space. But you can use Blackbeard with that system. As an example of this,
snap.
like my whole house is like scanned, like the same way you'd scan with an Oculus or anything else, right? But then like when you run a scenario, like wearing these goggles, all I see is my house and then digital entities put into the actual physical environment. And I use my Blackbeard to, so now, so now I don't have to have my wife like go hide targets. Now I can just like run around my house and see guys that no one else can see through these lenses and engage them with my rifle.
The future is now.
It's super duper expensive. And that's the only reason that like we're telling the military like, hey, you know, this is well within your ballpark. And there's some units out there with it now. But yeah,
is it going to be available to the civilian market?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Really, the main holdup for that is like affordable headsets. There's not really a headset out there that's, you know, if you went and looked at like Ace VR, which is awesome by the way. There's a lot of people out there with an Oculus, right? Like Oculus is affordable. You can get one for like $300, you know, sometimes $200 to $500 anywhere in there if you're new or used or what generation it is or whatever. But that's affordable, like especially for like a serious committed training gun guy. Like, yeah, I'll buy that, and then like the controller's an extra $100, and I can go do that. Great. Augmented reality is like insanely expensive. You know, like the Magic Leap headset I'm talking about, that's a $3,000 headset. Like, you're not going to have guys out there that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we're
Time to start
waiting
digging in the
for-
couch cushions.
Yeah, right? So we're just kind of waiting for augmented reality to become like affordable. And then you'll see consumer versions of that for sure.
Cool. Cool.
And then we also have a VR kind of version of like VR range and things like that. Don't have like an official launch date on that. Ace is killing it there, so we're gonna have to be like well timed with that launch and make sure that it's accessible for the right reasons. But
Sure.
You'll see that, I'm sure, here in the nearish future too.
Cool.
Yeah,
Dude, that's exciting.
Cram
That's
packed,
exciting.
man. It's been a while
Yeah.
since we've had a big launch. You know, it's been a couple years since you've seen something like really new from Mantis. So we're really excited about the upcoming year plus, because the engineering team has been busy. So we're excited to share a lot of new stuff.
I'm also just excited about the accessibility of a lot of this gear, because I mean, I remember even like 6-7 years ago, you know, getting some kind of projection system with like an IR reciprocating whatever, you're talking over 10 grand, you know. And it's like, so you're talking about like, okay, yeah, 3K is a lot for a headset, but at the same time, I'm jazzed that it's like, okay, the standards for you know, cost effectiveness, like where they're at today for this type of stuff is super exciting. So I don't know, I'm stoked. Maybe I'm just too optimistic.
No, you're not. You're the correct amount of excited. And I'm the same way. Like, I am super stoked for this to be more accessible too, right? Like, not even as like a salesperson or a Mantis representative, but in general as a gun guy,
Like just for
like,
yourself.
dude, finally, right? Like, we get some sweet stuff, and it's, you know, the duplicity, or like how quickly technology grows and doubles over itself and gets better.
Yeah.
You know, like, as a millennial, I like went from Super Nintendo to dial-up internet to like Halo to, you know, now I have an augmented reality system. I can shoot fake guys in my house. You know what I mean? So like, that was fast. So it's only going to keep getting faster and more affordable. So it's a cool time to be here.
Yeah, people think I'm crazy, but like something will come out and I'll be like, this is awesome. They're like, yeah, but it's buggy. I'm like, no, but you don't understand. Like, if this is out now, like 3 years from now is going to be sick. And people are like, whatever. It's like, I'm just weird that way. But
no,
okay,
you got
cool.
the right mindset yet. Yeah.
Well, those are pretty much all my Dryfire related questions. So
right on.
Thanks for enduring that. As we're kind of wrapping things up here, I do want to jump to a segment that we call "Show Me Your Gun," which basically, you choose a gun. You can only choose one though, but something that you're excited to share with us.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, we've all seen them, right? But I literally just finished this bad boy like this week, and I've been sitting this like, I've had the frame for like a couple months now, and what with the internet being all upsetty spaghetti about 320s, like,
right.
I've been like going back and forth on actually finishing this thing, but I got a special Flux Raider from Flux. I kind of just told you about Halo. Being a software guy, like I am a huge like game nerd, dude. Like, I love Halo. It's without a doubt the best gaming franchise in the world. And my Flux has an energy sword. Oh gosh, it's not gonna show it now, but like right there's an energy sword laser engraved on it. Can I get it close enough? Is it gonna see it right there? So like,
cool.
I was pretty stoked about that. Got the lead and steel PB3 on top of it with like an insane mechanical offset. Like, that's nuts. But dude, I'm a long neck guy, dude. I'm an absolute giraffe. But
I was gonna say, you could like hip fire that thing and still get a dot acquisition.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's nuts. It took a little bit of practice to get pretty handy with it, but yeah, just finished it up. Already got like 300 rounds through it. So, nice. Absolutely loving this thing, dude. That's cool. It's been pretty sick. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. If anyone's on the fence about like one of these bad boys, jump, because it's sick, dude.
Get off the fence.
Yeah, man. I've loved this thing, and it's not like insanely new, right? Like, there's quite a few of these out in the wild now. But I was on the fence for a while, and I should have jumped early on. Super stoked I did, because Yeah, these things are concealable. They're compact. You get that third point. It holds a ton of ammo. It's got some really neat features like the dual mag drop. So once you drop that one, you can also, like, when you rip the front one, it'll drop that one. So it makes like reloading insanely easy. But yeah, dude, Flex Raider, 10 out of 10. Like, in all honesty, it's like a 9.1 out of 10. There's some things I would change, but sick. Love it. This is my favorite right now.
Sweet. Dude, that's awesome. It's been towards the top of my list as well. So maybe one day. Now that Sig is actually producing them,
dude,
they've been a lot easier. I mean, every time I've gone to Flux's site, they're just unavailable. So
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And 320 stuff is like kind of cheap right now still because
for reasons
on fire about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's pretty sick.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I think this is probably a good place to land the plane. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge, and also sharing some of the cool details about the tech and how all that works. And then also your insights on Dryfire. If people were interested in learning more about Mantis and all kinds of cool Dryfire gear, where's a good place that they could go?
Yeah, so mantisx.com for sure. We sell direct. We might also have a dealer near you, so we actually have a cool little like interactive map on the site too. So if you want to support your local guy and they sell our gear, you'll know there. And yeah, dude, completely stoked to have been able to sit and talk with you for a while, and I love being able to share and help people grow and talk about
Sweet.
it. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jake. Appreciate you, and y'all get out there and go Dryfire.
Yeah, right on, man.